What's going on, guys? It's Sean here with Gadget Reason, back with another video. And once again, E3 has come and gone, leaving me with that empty feeling knowing I have this huge back catalog of unfinished games to play long before I can even think about getting to any of these incredible games that were announced over the past 4 or 5 days. Now, when it comes to gaming, I'm pretty agnostic. I'm not a fanboy of any one particular platform or another. I typically own all the different systems from each and every generation. So currently I have a PS4 Pro, an Xbox One S, a Nintendo Switch, which I love, and the only system that I have missing right now is a PC gaming rig. Now, ordinarily, I'm one of those people that maintains a full-blown PC gaming rig that's maxed out. I upgrade it multiple times a year and make sure that it always has the latest, greatest tech in it. But the last 18 months or so, I actually haven't had a fully functioning gaming rig at all. Since most of my workflow with YouTube or graphic design work that I do is all done on Mac computers, it really just hasn't been worth the time or money to maintain a full-blown gaming rig. However, after watching all the announcements at E3 and thinking about the huge back catalog of games I have and Steam purchases that I've made that I never finished, I really started thinking about going back and putting together some type of quickie build that would allow me to at least have some type of PC gaming rig in place. I thought something that might be kind of fun and interesting to do would be to take a bunch of scrap and leftover parts that I have lying around my office, throw together a quick and dirty rig, and see how far I can push it into the next generation of games that are coming out this year. Now, I'll go ahead and warn you guys up front, especially those of you that are hardcore gaming rig guys that put together these immaculate machines with liquid cooling pipes that are color matched to all the beautiful cable management and everything that you put into it to make it look great. I did none of that on this build. This is one of the ugliest, sloppiest builds I've ever done. I put the whole thing together in about 35 minutes, honestly. So I spent exactly $0 purchasing any new pieces or parts to put this build together. On the graphics and performance side of things, I wanted a machine that would run most games in 1440p or 2K, and that would be able to maintain solid, smooth frame rates of preferably 60 frames per second, but I would settle for 30 frames per second if it was going to be a really solid 30 frames per second with no dips below that. Now, the goals that I have for what I consider to be acceptable performance out of this machine would be that the games have to look and perform at least on par with what they would be on a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One S. Now, even though the PS4 Pro and Xbox One S are marketed as 4K gaming machines, most of us know they're not running games natively at 4K most of the time. They're either using checkerboarding or some type of variable resolutions throughout different parts of the games, or a lot of other tricks, and then upscaling those to 4K. And there's nothing wrong with that. All the games that I've played on my PS4 Pro or Xbox One S that have been specifically tailored to work on those systems look fantastic. I'm not complaining at all. But the reality is that I don't need to build this rig to run true 4K gaming either, because when you're playing on your TV from 10 to 12 feet away, most people can't tell the difference between 2K and 4K anyway. So for me, I thought a goal of 1440p was a good middle ground for this build, specifically because I'm not using the latest and greatest graphics cards or processors to make this thing a true 4K gaming machine. So taking a look at this ugly old Antec PC tower, you can see I didn't even clean out most of the dust in all the crevices here. But one of the decent things about this tower is that it does have 2 front-facing cooling fans, and they actually do have removable and cleanable filters, which is nice to kind of try and keep some of that dust from gathering and be able to keep things cool, because I will be overclocking both the CPU and the graphics card. I also have this old 500GB portable hard drive that I'll use to be transferring some data back and forth as I finish setting it up. And finally, I'll be using a old Xbox 360 wired controller. It's actually a wireless version that I converted to a wired controller a few years back, and I still really like the Xbox 360 controller in general. It's pretty close to the Xbox One controller, and both of those are considered some of the best controllers ever made. But the old wired Xbox 360 controllers did have the USB cable that had the quick disconnect, which I kind of like. And I just really don't think there's that much of a difference between Xbox 360 or Xbox One controllers to make that much of a difference. So as we jump into the inside of the PC and take a look at the guts I threw in here, I had an MSI Z77MA-G45 Ivy Bridge motherboard, and the only CPU I could find lying around that would pair with that was the Core i5 3570K, which I overclocked to 4 GHz. I had 12 GB of DDR3 dual channel memory lying around, so I threw that in there. I would have preferred 16, 16, but I couldn't find any more paired modules, so I went with 12 gigabytes. And I paired all of that with an MSI GTX 970 Gaming 4G graphics card, which I'm also overclocking. That was probably the heart of this system here because it's the only real component that I had that was relatively recent. And I threw on a Corsair H60 liquid cooling block just because I had it lying around and it wasn't being used, and I figured it would help cut down a little bit on noise with not having to have a large CPU fan blowing the whole time the PC was running. And I threw in a 500 gigabyte PNY SSD that I had lying around as extra storage. I went ahead and formatted it and threw that in there to install a clean install of Windows 10. So as you can see, all these parts thrown together make for a pretty lackluster PC. Nothing fancy here at all, and it really probably doesn't really compete with even some of the high-end gaming laptops that are available now. But this is what I had to work with, and I'm going to see how long I can ride this thing out. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first game that I tested out this system build with once I got everything up and running, and that was Rise of the Tomb Raider. And as I mentioned earlier, I wanted all these games to be running at like 1440p, so I'm not going to make any sacrifices there. So I'm going to have to see what I have to do to the graphical settings to be able to get this to run at as close to 60 frames per second as I can with the 1440p resolutions. So I started things off with mostly high settings. Even ambient occlusion was set to HBAO+, and a few things like dynamic foliage I turned down to medium because I really don't see much difference in those in actual gameplay. I ran a quick benchmark test using the game's in-engine benchmarking, and at the end of that benchmark, I came out with an average frame rate of about 52 frames per second. Now this is not bad, but it's a little bit lower than I would have preferred. So I went back in and made a few adjustments to a couple of the settings, and I went back and readjusted the overclock settings for my graphics card to see if I could milk out just 1 or 2 extra frames per second. I then ran another quick in-game benchmark, and I came out with an overall score of 59.5 FPS. And here's what some of the gameplay footage actually looks like with that frame rate. Now, as you can see, even when the action starts to ramp up and there's a lot more things happening on the screen, some particle effects, and a decent amount of lighting effects being applied as well, the game is still running very smooth. I'm not noticing a whole lot of frame rate drops or anything that's really choppy that could be picked up on during gameplay. Now, obviously, you know, some die-hard purist gamers would probably say that there's probably something happening in there and maybe we notice a few frame rate drops. But as I said at the beginning, I'm really trying to just get this to perform better than it would on, say, an Xbox One or a PS4 Pro or something like that. And I think for me, this is definitely achieving that.
Shit, that's gonna be cold. A Byzantine war galley.
As you can see, all the graphical effects here look really, really good. I think the details are solid. I also think you can definitely see a difference even in something like this here with the particle effects and the draw distance and the extra resolution that you would get over, say, just running it at 1080p. And here we're taking a look at some gunplay. You can see, again, everything's running pretty smooth, not noticing anything that would really hinder the gameplay experience. And even as we cut to this little cutscene here, and even as this garage door opens and you get some dynamic lighting happening, some God rays coming through, yeah, everything looks really good. So overall, I'm really happy with the performance that I'm getting with this game and these graphical settings. I think I'm definitely achieving my goal of getting something that looks better than it would on the Xbox One S or PS4 Pro, and it's running at, you know, a nice resolution with a decent amount of graphical effects turned on, and I'm still maintaining what basically amounts to 60 frames per second. Since completing this build and getting everything up and running, I've played through about 40% of Rise of the Tomb Raider, and everything is running tip-top, everything is running super solid. I'm really enjoying the gameplay experience. It's also worth noting that I've tested this out on both my 1440p and 4K monitors, as well as hooking it up to my 75-inch 4K TV in my living room, and even at 75 inches, the game looks fantastic. It runs great, it runs smooth, and I'm pretty excited to see how this little FrankenPC graveyard build, whatever you want to call it, I'm pretty excited to see how this is going to hold up over some more testing going forward. As I said at the beginning of this video, this will be an ongoing series where I show you guys how this PC build is holding up with the exact same hardware, exact same settings that I have right now with another game going into the next video. So I haven't decided which game I'm going to use to put the system through its paces for the next video, but if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on what games you'd like to see this system test out, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below, or you can just hunt me down on social media at Gadget Reason and just reference this video and let me know what you'd like to see. I'm thinking I might give it a go with either Killer Instinct or Shadow of Mordor, since they did announce the sequel to that game, and that's something that I really never got to finish, and I'm super interested to see how that runs on this hardware as well. But let me know what you guys think and if you'd like to see either of those games tested or something else. So enjoy the rest of the footage while I close out this video. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys have comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below, or you can find me on social media at Gadget Reason. You can hunt me down on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you know, the usual places. And also, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you loved it, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it, and it will go a long way towards helping me get to that 100 subscribers I need to get my dedicated YouTube channel name, and also you'll get notified of all the new videos as they post. So that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the footage, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.
The invaders took many of my people prisoner. You should leave this place before it's too late.
I can't do that. I came here for something important.
So did they.
What's going on down there? Who...